In this drill, we're going to practice responding to tricks. And a key part of tricks is beating theory, or rather beating their really blippy bad answers to theory. So one of those really bad blippy answers that they'll make is they'll read a bunch of really short fairness is not a voter arguments, and each of these arguments become functional nibs because you have to beat all of them, and they can just win one of them, and they would beat the theory shell. Ready?
Yep.
So if you're following at home, flow this, take prep time, respond to it, same as always. Fairness is not a voter. 1. Flipping a coin in every debate is definitionally fair, but that would ruin the activity because there would be no incentive for anyone to debate because each round would be left to log. 2. Debating rewards inequities like who are the better speakers who make more strategic decisions, who has better arguments. Since debate is competitive, fairness can't always be preserved since you can never predict who wrote their own cases or who has private coaching, etc. Thus, structural unfairness is no reason to reject an argument or a debater. 3. All resolutions give side biases, so either debater, there's no reason to penalize the debater for taking advantage of arguments or side bias in order to win. It would be like giving someone $1 million and expecting them not to take it. 4. Fairness is speculative and differs from person to person, meaning evaluating theory with a fairness voter will always lead to judgment. Mention 5. Just because my opponent might be more fair for me doesn't mean you don't grant my advocacy or vote me down. It would be more fair in a debate round if I would give my opponent arguments and sure off my own case, but that would defeat the purpose of debate. 6. Turn. I'm being punished from the rules in which only my opponent knows in advance. I have no rule to abide by in the first place, making theory unfair. Thus, all debaters can potentially violate a rule. It would be like passing go and not collecting $200 because the rules changed in the middle of the game. These are actually not the worst arguments in the world.
No.
I've heard worse.
What's the fourth argument is fairness subjective, right?
Yeah.
Fifth argument is what?
Fifth argument is it would be like more fair in a debate round if I like gave you my arguments and straight ref my own case, but that would defeat the purpose of debate. So just because you might be more fair than me doesn't mean that you are the better debater. So no link to the ballot. Cool. If you're following along at home, take prep time, practice responding. Okay, so Parker has taken prep time and is going to respond to fairness is not a voter. Compare your responses to his. I'm ready.
It's going to be an overview and then your responses. Cool. 2 overview problems with your fairness on a voter versus a fairness on a voter that you use judges just intervene against the arguments because they do not care. If you fairly value the debate, second is that fairness is the definition of fairness is the better debater who is in that round winning the round. Your arguments have fundamentally misunderstand that. You say flipping is definitely fair. No, it's not. Check the overview because that is not the better debating when you say inequalities. But the out of round arguments are not based on unfairness, i.e. having better coaches is when it's a part of being better debater, i.e. If a better football player might have better coaches. Side bias. So first, comparatively, you should see compensation through side bias argument. Second, it's a very small bias. It's not responsible for anyone. There's no one should be punished like theory should be. You say fairness subjective, but no, it's objectively who did the better debate in that round, who should have won that. And they say more, it should be more fair to share your own case. No, because that's not the better debating winning, i.e. you're just letting your opponent win when they don't have the skill. And they say only my opponent knows when it's first that there is a rule in debate, i.e. you should always be fair and educational, and you should be able to justify whether that's the case. Second is that this is self-refuting because it concedes that fairness is a voter, but it tries to operate in a turn why theory is bad under it, but it's still a theoretical one, which should be the case, which means that it would also apply to itself that I should not be around theory, which means that you reject this argument.
What's number 6? Oh, ex post facto. Okay, so I think you're missing a lot of really easy arguments on a lot of these. So first thing is the definition of fairness on the overview should specifically just say this takes out the 1, 2, 3, and those are the 3 arguments it takes out, right?
1, 2, and 4.
Why?
And 5. Kind of 4, not really.
Yeah, definitely takes out 1 and 2.
Takes out 5.
Nah. Why does it take out 5?
Because that's not the better debater winning. If you're straight roughing yourself and giving your opponent all your evidence.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's fair. So, why is this the definition of fairness, then?
Well, that's what they justified more out of presumably the theory shall I read.
Right. So, you should be like, the implicitly justified definition of fairness out of the shell is that fairness is a question of who is the better debater in the round itself. In-round is key. It means that external impacts outside of the round can be quantified in terms of in-round impacts on the line by line. Specifically takes out your 1, 2, and 5 arguments. Let's do the line by line.
Yep. Should I just skip over those arguments then?
No, I think you should make one extra argument on all of these, right? On flipping a coin, you can say flipping a coin is not fair because it would advantage lazy debaters, and
that's our argument. That's the argument in the overview. It's not the better debating winning. It's the worst debater, lazy debater winning from the coin flip.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly think this is the overview argument. It's just the straight up true response. Right?
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. On the number 2 argument, though, I would like you to make an argument about how a lot of inequities are. There's a difference between in-round inequity and out-of-round inequity, and the difference is reciprocity. You have reciprocal access to becoming a better speaker, becoming more strategic, or getting better arguments. Don't have reciprocal access to in-round abuse. The point of the show was that I've like lost that access.
But you don't have reciprocal access to like better coaches.
Yeah, that's true. But you can argue that better coaches is not a component of fairness, or is not key to fairness. Like, people win the TOC without good coaches. Right?
Yeah. Or I could just go for like out of round is not what the fairness voter speaks to.
Yeah. Which is what you did go for on the overview.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're just diversifying.
Yeah.
So on the number 2, I'd be like, this misses the point. You have equal access to being a better speaker and making more strategic decisions. That's not the case for in-round abuse. Also, in the overview, again, we want to add in the quantification argument, that these arguments can be quantified. These inequities can be quantified on the line-by-line of the interp-counter-interp debate. You can read them as standards. So, like, if people really think that having better coaches is unfair, one of the standards on the counter-interpretation can be coaching skew.
All right. Well, we can have that as a third overview argument.
Yeah, cool. So, on AT side bias, we just compensate small bias. I would also add in empirical claim without empirical warrant. You don't justify side bias. And on the compensation argument, I'd be like, such as AFC. Give a popular example for what you mean. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And if they do give an empirical claim or warrant, you can definitely go for like no controls, no confidence intervals, don't like have et cetera, basically our block. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. On subjectivity, your response is it's objective to specific rounds. I would say like double bind, this would mean that all debate is subjective because it's just the judge choosing their personal opinion. That makes no sense. That's why we flow, to have objective resolution. Like, theory doesn't ask you to vote for what you like. It asks you to vote for what you think won. So that's an example of you not choosing the best argument, because this was an argument generation problem, right? Where you just didn't come up with the strongest argument. And in this case, the strongest argument is no warrant. The opposite is actually true. Like, you do not have a link. This was stupid.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? On straight ref, I think your response was fantastic. On ex post facto, I think the argument you should be making that you're not making is that you have equal access to shaping the in-round rules. So it's not ex post facto, because it's not like halfway through the rule a game I tell you you no longer get $200 for collecting Go. We have to agree halfway through the game that you no longer get $200 for collecting Go.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So I would use their example against them.
Well, it's not like
you say it's ex post facto, it's the equivalent of changing the rules of Monopoly and not giving you $200 for passing Go, but the difference between that example and theory is that we get to agree and have a discussion on whether or not we should make that rule change in the first place, which means you get equal access to it, and it's not ex post facto. Yeah. Using their example against them is one of the most powerful ways to deconstruct an argument. Because then it's like their own example. It's even more embarrassing for them.
Makes sense.
Cool? I'd like to definitely hear this again, so why don't you take a minute of prep time and try it again. Those of you following along at home, do the same. Okay, Parker is taking prep time and is going to try this again.
Overview fairness on everyone. First, fairness on everyone. You should just intervene against them because they do not care. What I care about fairness, which means there's still a unique differentiating reason for why you should vote for me. Second, is that fairness, the definition of fairness that's implicit from the theory shells. That it's the question of who the in-round better debater is. That takes out your 1, 2, and 5 evidence, because there's arguments about why not necessarily the better debater is winning that round, because flipping a coin, the better debater does not win that round. Through the counter 3, you can just read all your reasons why fairness is objective, or why those skews as a net benefit your counter interpretation. You say you don't have a coach, you could read that as as reason why you're allowed to do abusive things to compensate for your arguments, not line by line. You still in your second argument say there's inequalities, but this can place in round and out of round abuse. You have equal access to out of round abuse. You can become a better speaker or make more strategic decisions and train for those. That's not the case for in round arguments like abusive arguments like nibs, which you can never get back. You say side bias versus comparatively. We just compensate you in other ways. You can give you presumptions. Second, that's a very small amount of bias. Three is empirical claim, empirical more. You have not comparative reason why there's any sort of topic bias. Now you say fairness is subjective, but this is empirically denied, especially on theory flow because on theory because judges flow the debate. You try to make an objective decision. Now you say only my opponent knows, but first we both have equal access to discussion. You say monopoly would be like not giving you change the rules, not giving you $200, but the difference is we have a discussion over if we should make that rule change, which obviously is allowed in monopoly. It's not ex post facto. Second is self-refuting because it's just the argument why theory is bad, but it's self-appealing to theoretical, which means it applies to itself. We should reject this argument.
Good. How long was that?
120.
Okay. I want a drill for tomorrow to be to get this in 45 seconds, where you have to pick and choose just your best arguments.
Yep.
So consolidation. So they make 6 reasons, you get 6 arguments in return.
Awesome.
You get your one best argument on each of them, and if you can group them, even better. Cool?
Let's do it.
Cool. Those of you following along at home, that was weird, do the same thing and check back for part 2.